Having 10 years of living in a high-rise building, I know a thing or two. There's some things I love and there's things I don't love, and I'm gonna share them both with you. Now, those 10 years were not all in Las Vegas. I've lived in Bangkok, Thailand in 3 different high-rises, and I've lived in the Wilshire corridor in Los Angeles. I've also lived in one Queensridge place here in Las Vegas, located right outside of Summerlin. I've also had a ton of experience selling condos all over Las Vegas, in downtown, in Summerlin, as well as the Las Vegas Strip. Here in Las Vegas, the location of the high-rise condos is prime. Look at Waldorf Astoria, for instance. You are located in the center of the Las Vegas Strip in the city center. What about One Queensridge Place? Across the street, you have Tivoli Village, which has farmers markets, as well as a salon and coffee shops. You also have the Jewel in the Ogden, which is surrounded by the Arts District in downtown. Imagine going down the elevator and popping into a bar or seeing a local artist display their artwork. It is such a cool vibe. So like in anything in real estate, location is always so important, and with high-rise living, you're definitely checking that box. Let's start with the pros in high-rise living. Number 1, the social aspect. Quick little story. I moved a single guy out here from San Francisco. He was used to living in a tech bubble, and moving to Las Vegas, he wanted to take advantage of the tax savings here in our fabulous city. But the problem is he was looking around at homes and finding that residential living was not for him. There was nowhere he could just walk and go meet people. There was nowhere that he could just stroll around and pop into a bar. That just was not happening out in Summerlin or anywhere that he was looking in these residential neighborhoods. Which is why when he found me, I took him downtown. I knew that downtown would have all the vibrant, fun things he was looking for in his new lifestyle, give him that loft style living that he was used to in San Francisco, and also solve the social problem he was facing trying to meet people in a new city. There are a few buildings downtown, and we checked out all of them: Soho, Ogden, and Jewel. And as we were walking around, I wanted him to feel the vibe of what it would feel like to live in this location. You see, with me, the number one thing that I find with my clients who are relocating here to Las Vegas is finding that location that fits their style and their vibe. Like I shared, the number one thing he was facing looking at all these residential neighborhoods was there was no social aspect. There was no way for him to meet people with ease. When you work from home and you're relocating, that can be a huge disaster in trying to meet people. You're in your office, you don't really have anywhere to go hang out, there's no common areas. So for him, that was so important. As we were looking, we walked around downtown because the number one thing I wanted him to see was how cool his lifestyle would be living downtown. We checked out the bars, we walked around the art district, we checked out all the cool vintage shops. Downtown is such a vibe, it's super cool. So as we're looking at the buildings, I wanted him to find that building and that unit that really spoke to him. We went into Soho, and that building was just so vibrant, red, super cool, with cool art everywhere. It just fit his vibe. We went up to the unit, and it had a fantastic strip view. Boom, the whole strip. That is one thing you can get in these high-rise buildings, is you can get an incredible view. So this unit had the huge ceilings he was looking for, total loft style, a total vibe. We hung out in the common areas for 20 minutes, met some people who lived in the building, and it was just a sincere fit. It just fit exactly what he was looking for. So if you're someone out there who's relocating to this fabulous city and you're not really sure how you're gonna meet people, you're not really into the country club vibe, living in a high-rise has so many opportunities to meet people just like you. Fast forward, my client found the unit and he fell in love. We walked into this unit and the strip view was just wow, spectacular. 711 was the unit number. I'll never forget it. We hung out around the building, we met some of the people who lived in the building, and in that moment, I saw the spark, and I just knew that this was the perfect lifestyle for him. The other cool thing is that you can just walk over to the bars. There's actually a bar downstairs that's comic book themed. It's pretty crazy, but pretty cool all at the same time. And there's all these cool things to do with the Arts District. They have First Friday. They have all kinds of unique things to do in that area. So yes, if you're looking to meet people, you're relocating to this fabulous city, high-rise building could be a great way for you to have a social aspect in your life and also network. Now for me, when I lived in Bangkok, I moved into a whole other culture and a whole other country. And for me, I literally knew no one. And it was very scary and very frustrating. And for me, living in a high-rise building gave me an excuse to walk up to someone and ask where the gym was, or ask where the nearest grocery store was. It gave me those excuses because people were hanging out in the common areas, and it made my move so much better. That is also why I'm so passionate about high-rise living, because I myself have experience relocating and not knowing anybody, not even knowing where the nearest grocery store is, and having the access to people who lived in the building, even the building people who worked there. It was just so much smoother of a transition for me and my family, and I've watched it with my clients too. Like I shared earlier, my client, single guy, moving here from San Francisco, didn't know anybody, worked from home, and he's now thriving, has tons of friends, and he just loves his life here. Pro number 2, the amenities you want. So most of the buildings have a pool, a heated spa, a gym, but every building has different amenities, and I share more about that in my other videos, so check out my playlist for that. But in an instance that you want to have the pool, the spa, the gym, concierge, you want to have a limo service, you want to have coffee and tea, you want to have common areas to hang out, you're not going to get that in a residential home. So having a high-rise building that has all of those things included in your HOA is going to make your lifestyle so much more fun. HOA dues are a bit on the high side, but they include so much. Some of these buildings even include your utilities and Wi-Fi in that HOA. You also have maintenance and security and all these other things. So yeah, your HOA may be high, but you get so much more for it. The resort style pool, don't have to maintain it. The pet park, where your pets can meet other pets, you're not gonna have to worry about socializing your animals because there it is right there. Some of these facilities even have movie theaters, they have rooms that you can rent out for parties, some of them even have kitchens that you can rent out if you want to have a dinner party, wine cellars, all kinds of different amenities. Each building is different. I'd love to share which building would work best for you, so feel free to comment below and ask any questions you have about particular buildings and amenities. Pro number 3, 24-hour security. If you're someone who works long hours, or you're looking at a high-rise unit as a second or third home, you may want to look into the security of the building. Now, for someone like myself, who at the time lived in a high-rise building, I was working a lot and my husband was traveling all over Asia, so I was home alone a lot of times. And having that sense of security, not only with the security camera system, some of these buildings have guard gates, or they have someone kind of walking the grounds to make sure everything looks secure. A lot of them have a front desk with somebody there that is also monitoring who's walking in and out of the building. They may not be that third-party security company that the HOA has hired, but someone is standing there watching people go in and out of the building. And you and I both know when you're sitting at a desk and there isn't a lot going on at 1 o'clock in the morning, you're kind of interested at those people walking in and out, thinking, who is that walking over by the pool? Or you just tend to just look around and check things out. So if you're someone who is looking at this high rise as a second home or a third home, or you're gone a lot, you work long hours, having that sense of security is truly priceless. Pro number 4, like I mentioned in the beginning, a location, 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 the best, biggest term in real estate. Imagine living in Veer Towers, super duper sleek, unique architecture. They have the pool and spa at the very top of the building, which is super cool. Going down the elevator, walking across to Crystal's shops, shopping away, having a great time, walking over to the Aria, having a cocktail and lunch at Javier's, my favorite Mexican restaurant, and then going back to your unit and then walking on over to Park MGM and catching a concert, or walking on over to T-Mobile Arena and seeing the Vegas Golden Knights play. That is what I think a true luxurious lifestyle right there in that high-rise building. So like I shared, location. A lot of these buildings are in prime locations. You have a building like the Ogden or Jewel where you have access to everything downtown. You have buildings like Waldorf Astoria. You have buildings like Vidara where you have access to the city center with Cosmopolitan and Aria and all the restaurants that come along with that. You have MGM Signature at the end of the strip where you have access to the resort at the MGM, as well as all the things that the MGM includes, including Topgolf. So imagine your lifestyle. It's gonna be plentiful with things to do, entertainment, food, restaurants, anything that your heart desires you have on the Las Vegas Strip And if you're living in one of those high rises, you have direct access to everything. One of the greatest perks in living in a high-rise building is the location. Some of these buildings are in the heart of the city. These buildings are found in the business districts, the art districts, in the entertainment areas, and of course, plenty of five-star restaurants around the corner, and so many things to do. For instance, if you lived in Veer Towers, you could literally walk to the T-Mobile Arena and catch a Golden Knights game or a concert. You could also walk to Park MGM and enjoy the Nomad and see a beautiful show at the Park MGM Theater. You could also walk over to the Aria and have tons of shopping and food, all within walking distance. Imagine what your life would be like. Before I get to my cons, my name is Courtney Bentley. I'm a concierge luxury real estate agent, and I take the stress out of moving to Las Vegas, my favorite city in the world. Now let's move on to the cons of living in a high-rise building. Con number 1, rules and restrictions. When looking at high rises, the number 1 thing I make sure my clients like is the location. Number 2, I make sure that we review the rules and regulations because every single building has different rules and regulations. Some allow pets, some don't. Some allow you to have unlimited parking spaces, some only allow you to have 2. There are so many things to consider when looking at the rules and regulations. I actually compiled a list of questions that I'd like for you to write down if you're considering moving to a high-rise building. Or if you'd like, you can always DM me on Instagram or check out my contact information below, and I'll send you this list so that you have it when looking at high-rise buildings. Some questions that you need to ask when it comes to looking at high-rise buildings. Number 1, what are the noise regulations? This is important. If you're someone who's working from home, you want to know that next door can't throw a party at noon on a Monday when you're trying to write a book or you're trying to create a piece of art. You want to know that there is regulations with noise. So this is definitely a question you're going to want to ask. Number 2, what are the guidelines for booking the common areas? Now, if you're someone who's looking around at the pool and the spa and the rooms that you can rent out, you may be thinking to yourself, this is a great opportunity for me and my business. I could throw my company party at that pool. Or when people fly in to meet with me, I can book one of the boardrooms and have them here. But if you don't know what the rules and restrictions are, that could be a major issue. You're going to want to know how many times can you book out these rooms in a year? What does it look like to book them out? Do I need to put a deposit down? These are all things you want to consider, especially if you want to use these rooms and maximize your HOA dues. Number 3, what types of items can I store on my balcony or my patio area? So some of these buildings have balconies and patios, which is awesome, but you may not be able to put some fake plants or trees or whatever out there. So you're going to want to know what you can and can't do if you do have a balcony. If you're someone who smokes, you may not be able to smoke off your balcony. This is another question that might concern or something you may want to consider if you're looking into a high-rise building. Number 4, if you're like me, I have a lovely Shih Tzu named Chewbacca. And something that was important to me when I was looking for a high-rise building is I want to know what the pet restrictions are. What does the pet park look like? How is that maintained? Are there rules and regulations about where I can take my dog? These things are important. Now for me, when I lived in One Queensridge Place, I had to take the service elevator to take my dog down, and I had to make sure that she didn't touch the ground, so I had to carry her if I were in any of the common areas. Now this is something that mattered to me because my dog is a senior, she doesn't walk very well, so I wanted to take her so she didn't have to walk that much, so I had to carry her, and it was kind of a pain in the butt when it was 115 degrees outside going to that pet park. But again, if I had known that this would be an issue, I may have reconsidered what building I looked into. So again, these are things that you want to consider, especially if you have a pet. Number 5, what is the limit of cars I can park on the property? Some buildings only allow 2 parking spaces. Some buildings allow, they don't say unlimited, but pretty much unlimited valet. Some have restrictions on how often you can valet. These are all things that you're going to want to consider, especially if you have multiple cars. Now, when I lived in One Queensridge Place, something that really struck me and made me excited about living there is I had my own garage. So having that garage space was a game changer for us because We like to have a lot of space in our garage for storage. We have a lot of equipment, things like that. So I needed that space, and so having a garage was important to me. A lot of buildings don't have garages, so these are things you're gonna wanna consider and learn about before purchasing a condo. Number 6, who is the property management company running the day-to-day operations? This is huge. You can learn a lot about a building by checking out the property management company. Property management company is personally to me one of the things that keeps a building value up or could bring it down big time. The way the property is managed and maintained is key. It can be a major disappointment if you're forking out $2,000 a month for HOA and that money is being mismanaged by the property management group. The trees aren't being trimmed, the gate's broken, the pool's broken and they're not working. These are all things that you're gonna wanna look into. So finding out who's running that property, you can do a little bit background due diligence and see what people are saying about that company just by Google searching. So if that's something that's important to you, you wanna know where your money's going, finding out who manages that property is one of the first things actually you should be asking. Number 7, are there property use restrictions or rental restrictions? If you're buying a unit thinking that you're gonna Airbnb it, you could be wrong. I'll give you an instance. I sold a unit about 3 years ago in Turnberry Place. I represented the seller, and so I sold the unit. We did everything, the repairs, we provided the HOA documents, everything you need to do to have a really nice clean sale. At the walkthrough, the buyer's agent was there with his clients. They were walking through the property talking about Airbnb, talking about how they were gonna have the photographer come and list the property ASAP. As I was standing there walking through the property, I'm looking at the buyer's agent horrified because you cannot Airbnb in Turnberry Place. You have to have a tenant in there 6 months and up. So imagine the buyers' faces when they find out or get a huge fine when they start trying to Airbnb the unit. This was a huge mistake on the buyer's agent, and I personally was mortified. In this situation, I provided all the rules and regulations, well, the seller did, to the buyer's agent, who then provided it to the buyers. And the buyers and the buyer's agent did not do their due diligence and ask the proper questions to make sure that they could Airbnb that unit. In this instance, I was mortified. I didn't know what to say. I was shooken up because I knew that you could not Airbnb that unit. And to be honest, if they had mentioned that during their walkthrough when they first saw the unit, I could have easily let them know that that was a no-go. But this is something that you need to know. So if you're looking to buy one of these units as an investment for Airbnb, you want to know the terms, the regulations, and the different things for that building because every single building is different. Now you can Airbnb some buildings. There are 5 here in Las Vegas that you can do that with. There are some that are 30 days and up. There are some that are 6 months and up. And there are some buildings that allow 1-year leases and up. One Queensbridge Place is that building. So if you are looking at this as an investment, you're gonna wanna know those buildings. I've created a video with the rental restrictions, which is in a playlist, so check out that if you're looking to rent out your unit. Number 8, how are rules enforced by the HOA in the building? Now, every single building is different. Like I mentioned, a building is run by the property management group that your HOA dues pay for. And you want to know that if rules are broken, that there is a way that you can let either someone know or that someone is doing something about it. Because no one wants to pay high HOA dues to find out that the person next door is breaking every single rule in the book and you're following all the rules and they're not being fined. There's not people having a discussion about it. So this is something you want to know. How are these things handled? Is a letter just sent in the mail, or is there a discussion in a meeting in the HOA boards? How does all that work? That is very important and something you should ask. Number 9, what type of insurance do you need to hold to be in that building? Every building is different. Some require that you have up to $1 million insurance policies. Some require up to $500,000 insurance policies. They all have different regulations, and this is something that you're gonna need to find out, especially if you're a cash buyer. So learning what that is very important because that could change what your monthly dues are, not in terms of the HOA, but in terms of your monthly bills that you must pay. Last question, are there property assessments coming up? Imagine moving into your unit, getting everything set up. You're paying your HOA, everything's great, you're enjoying the common areas, and then you get a bill for $30,000. What? Yes, this can happen, and something that you need to ask during your due diligence period is, are there any known assessments coming up? A lot of these buildings were built in 2006, 2007, 2008, and a lot of them needs major renovations and facelifts in the common areas, even the pools, the spas, the fitness facilities, and a lot of times that bill gets passed on to the homeowners. Oftentimes the HOA does budget for these things because obviously these things are gonna be needed to be done down the road, but I have seen personally in some of these buildings, there are huge property assessments coming up, and as a buyer, you need to know about that, because no one wants to be stuck with a $30,000 bill they were not expecting. Another con I want to point out is the rental restrictions. I talked a lot about that in the first part of the cons, and I also have a video, but I just want to capitalize on that, and it's definitely a con, especially if you're an investor or you're looking at this as a second or third home. What else have you heard about high-rise living that I might have missed? Let me know in the comments. The last con, high-rise condos are difficult to finance. You might be asking why. There's a few reasons. Number one, litigation. We live in a very litigious society. People like to sue for all sorts of different things. Sometimes these lawsuits are very minor issues, and sometimes they are major issues. In either case, the HOA has inspected and made a huge list of these issues, and they've decided to pursue a lawsuit. What many homeowners have failed to realize is that when they pursue a lawsuit, it's gonna dry up financing in the building, thus bringing the values down. A bank isn't gonna want to loan in a building that has a ton of lawsuits. So as a homeowner or someone that lives in a condo, sometimes it's best to work with the HOA and the property management company to tidy things up. But in any case, there's always someone that's gonna sue, and that can cause a lot of problems when you're looking to finance a building. Several high-rise buildings have gone through litigation, and financing will become available if there are more owner-occupied units than tenant-occupied units. It is widely believed by banks that homeowners take better care of their property than tenants do. So that's why a lot of banks won't loan, even in single-family residential neighborhoods that have a high occupancy of tenants versus homeowners. During your escrow period, your lender is going to request an HOA questionnaire. In this questionnaire, they're going to find out how many units are tenant occupied and how many units are owner occupied. If 70% of these units are occupied by tenants, the lender will most likely refuse to finance it. That is why having an agent who has experience in high-rise buildings can be a huge asset to you, because I can do the due diligence behind the scenes to find out what that looks like to ensure that when we do enter escrow, we're not gonna have any issues that arise, such as that. Another reason you may not be able to get a loan is the high HOA fees. Some of these fees can be 3 to 4 times the amount of your mortgage payment. Imagine that. Now, when a lender is looking at your finances, they're not only looking at the purchase price of the unit, they're looking at all the other fees included, insurance, HOA, maintenance, all these things that they are going to look at when it comes to qualifying you for the loan. So if that HOA fee is more than your mortgage payment and you don't qualify for that, you may have a tough time getting a loan. Financing for these condo buildings has gotten easier through the years. There are some lenders here in Las Vegas that specialize in high-rise condos. I would love to put you in touch with one, so comment below or DM me on Instagram to get in touch. Now, if you're sitting there going, well, I don't qualify for conventional, I don't want to do a conventional loan, what kind of loan can I get? I don't want to do a hard money loan. You can get an FHA loan in some of these buildings, the Ogden, the Jewel, and Regency Towers. Those are the reasons that you may not be able to get financing, and it's harder to get financing in a high-rise condo. So although there are some cons in high-rise living, there are a ton of pros. If you're looking to check out some high-rise buildings in Las Vegas, I'm your girl, and I'd love to assist you. If you're thinking about making that lifestyle change to high-rise living, check out my playlist for everything you need to know about high-rise living in Las Vegas. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.